Welcome to the Pathmonk Presents podcast. My name is Sean Donnelly Lewis, and in today's episode, we're speaking with Ross Lauder, and he is the Chief Energy Officer at sftalent.com. Ross, how's it going?
I'm pretty good now. Thanks for having me on the show, Sean. Looking forward to talking today.
Yeah, well, tell us about SF Talent. What do you guys do?
So we're a talent agency that's a bit different. I started this business a number of years ago when I really found a challenge to communicate to scaling organizations what talent mean. What world-class talent differentiates you to be. So I found that having some contacts in the agency world, the biggest pushback they were getting was, we don't work with agencies, you're run of the mill, it sounds like you're all the same. Or folks were really just farming out opportunities to a couple different agencies. It was a race to the bottom and nobody really won. It was like, let's hope and do that kind of final Hail Mary. So I was a bit different in that I come from the industry. Myself and my teammates have all worked in, run and managed the teams of the roles that we hire for. And for us, we get internationalization. One of the key differences, I suppose, or the journey points you'll go through as an org when you grow is you've got to figure out that in Europe, there's different currencies, there's a multitude of languages, you have different geographies and laws, and navigating that can be a challenge. And if you're going from kind of your phase one and series A, your pre-seed funding, to series B beyond, and heading toward that IPO doorway, you really need to figure that stuff out along the way. And I figured that combination of a really kind of tenured talent team that had been through that journey was helpful in combination with a system we've put together, which allows us to promote our message to an audience. So we call that the PEN. It's Platform Engine Network. Platform is a podcast that we run called the Global Tech Leader Podcast, where we talk to leaders in technology businesses that have scaled and done this before. Engine is our mechanics and our secret sauce of being able to market to world-class talent. And network is the folks that we've been in other industries, like in finance and legal and such, that will navigate you through really scaling out to multiple countries. So that's really what we're about, if that is succinct enough for you, I hope.
Yeah, that was very, very extensive. So thinking about just bare bones, clientele, talk about your clientele for a second. Obviously, if you're servicing different people groups, different languages, just talk maybe about some of the things that you've done, or some of your clientele.
Sure. So a lot of the businesses we work with are kind of a bit secretive in sharing their details. But I can tell you, we've scaled businesses from 7 people to 450 in specific regions and countries. We've gone from a global perspective of a few hundred to several thousand. Our real sweet spot is the SaaS space, where people are between that kind of PE and Series D level, and they're looking to go international. One of the first things they traditionally do is, they'll drop into maybe the UK, for example, and they'll say, okay, well, they're an English speaking country, and, we can at least start there. What they don't realize is that they need to look at corporation tax rate. The UK have now left the European Union. Where I am in the Republic of Ireland is the only remaining English speaking country left in the European Union. We use the euro, and we have a track record of hosting the likes of the Googles, the Facebooks, the LinkedIn, Twitter, HubSpot, Salesforce, whom I have a network within, whom have a track record of that talent in this space, selling out through the European market. And then in APAC, that's another ball game again, for a discussion perhaps another day. But the EU is the biggest market on the planet, and a lot of folks don't realize that. But in order to pick the lock, you've really got to segment out your demand. So yes, the UK and Ireland is a big part of that. You've got 2 currencies within those jurisdictions, albeit similar laws. And then you've got Germany, which in and of itself, and some of the teams I ran, was up to 40% of the revenue in that space. And then you've got France and the Benelux and everything in between. So really, you've got to plan that out effectively. We would work with folks where they are able to see their marketing-led demand in respective countries, and then plan that out appropriately based on where they're seeing the demand pretty much stateside, and then plan out their geographies from there and how they're going to scale out from a growth perspective. And that kind of dictates your hiring plan. And that's kind of how we work with folks, if that's making sense.
Yeah, Yeah, that's great. And so with SF Talent, how have you guys been able to grow the company? Has it been a lot of digital marketing, inbound, SEO, SEM, referrals?
So I was very fortunate when I got started that we had a good banker referral business. I've been in the industry for 15 plus years, and that had been very, very good to me. And then from there on out, it really comes down to good quality content. You've got to have an inbound and an outbound led approach. So made a couple of critical hires in some of my sales team, and then for us the podcast has been a great leverage point to be able to engage with people and get their message out to our audience. So we've built the candidate database at the beginning. We made a very proactive attempt to do that, so that we had the asset built on the front end, and same with the podcast. And now we can channel that message through the podcast to our database on the front end. A lot of folks kind of make the mistake of reaching out to people and saying, hey, we're great people, please work with us. And then they kind of scramble in the background to take on the business and hope they can service it. I really felt that model was very broken. So that's what we've done to be successful.
And so thinking about the website, what role does the website in acquiring new clients?
So I find in our space, it's kind of a validation tool. So it's what a lot of people do is they can lead with the website from an inbound perspective. And I think that's valuable and that makes sense. But I think if you can, it's dependent on your industry, right? For software, it's crucial. And I think for us, what it does is we're now at the stage where we're looking to scale that up from an asset perspective. So our website had traditionally been a value component in validating that we are credible and who we say we are, and that we exist. And now it's about kind of website 2.0, as I see it, where you're integrating case studies, you're talking around testimonials, you're engaging in inflection points where you're documenting pain, and then seeing if it makes sense to speak with folks about how they scale out from there. I know I came across what you guys do, and I was fascinated that approach makes a ton of sense in terms of categorizing the buyer journey. And coming from a HubSpot background and having worked there, and really going through those kind of 4 stages, 3 to 4 stages, depending how you define it, really makes a ton of sense to me. So yeah, something that we're going to explore going forward. But it really is a leverage point. If you're not on the web, you don't exist, right?
Right. Yeah, and the website normally is, like you're saying, like it is a stress point. People talk about it as like, okay, yeah, if we could change this, then things would be a lot different in our business. In your space, if you were to improve one thing on the website, whether it's the conversions or the quality of leads, the user experience, which room for improvement do you think your website could use?
I guess we're kind of in a somewhat fortunate position in that we get a lot of inquiries. I think it's probably about refining, who you decide, is a good fit for you on both sides. I guess one of the things I've been really militant about is like really teasing out what it is people are looking to do and understanding if this is a good fit for you. Because it's really super easy as a salesperson to say we can absolutely solve every problem because we have a magic wand and we work across multiple verticals and we're just phenomenal. And that's really a poor and uneducated approach, in my opinion. I think if you can understand and tease out a fit with various components along the journey, then I think you're going to be in a better spot. So for example, if you have really good content at the top of your top of your funnel in your website, that's going to get in a lot of relatively qualified people. But the fall off down to the bottom of the funnel is something that's a crucial part of the buyer journey. So, I mean, if I look at my days in HubSpot, we had no problem with leads. I mean, it was quite phenomenal. There was no issue there whatsoever, which is a complete change of scene for me in terms of what I've been used to. Back in the days of enterprise sales, you'd be banging on the doors of some big banks around Europe and the US and trying to, plead for business and say how great your product was, and those days are gone. I think what happens in the middle of the funnel is crucial. Like we used to have a schedule for 45 to 50 discussions per month with folks who we were trying to qualify. And then we would have a second level qualification of about a third of those. And then we would close about a third of them again. And that's completely fine. Whereas the old sales model was close everything that's there. My close rate's 70, 80%. And that's nonsense in my opinion. It's not. It's about finding the fit, because you're going to have to work with these folks for a longer term engagement. And that's particularly true in SaaS today. If you're not delivering, people can, drop you monthly, quarterly, or annually, however long your contract is. So getting that right on the front end for me is, paramount importance.
And coming back to what you guys do, just for everyone listening, what would you say separates you guys? What makes you different than the other people that occupy the same space?
It's just that we've been there. Um, a lot of people start as recruiters or HR folks, or headhunters right out of the gate. I made a very conscious effort that wasn't what I did. And truth be told, I fell into recruitment. And it's just one of those things that I've really grown a passion for and love. And it's really just lending on my experience. So I feel like there's that experiential level of consultancy and engagement. And then also, we are happy to get your message out to your audience, on our own podcast, to share your message with the world and determine a fit for you guys to qualify in the back end. And I also have a very kind of succinct network of go-to people that I trust and trust me to put in front of credible, scalable, opportunity-led organizations that we really feel passionate about as well. So we've got to feel passionate about you, and you've got to believe and feel passionate about what we do, that we can make a fit work. So I'm pretty careful about who I work with, and I would like my clients to be the same as well.
And just this part of the show where I get to pick your brain a little bit, someone who's an energy officer like yourself. When it comes to growth, if I say the word innovation, what would you say is the biggest challenge to innovation when it comes to growing a company?
Product market fit for me, hands down. You've really got to understand what it is the market wants and what it is you're delivering, and don't be afraid to test that out over time. Like, as much as Apple lead the way by telling the market what they want, I admire that massively. I'm coming at it from the opposite perspective, which is I want to understand what I have to offer the world and tease out the people that I can add value to. And, that's a journey in and of itself. And, we all learn along the way. But I think in terms of growth and innovation, you've just got to find more and more people who can do that, and then bring people onto your team who can service people where there's an actual need, an untapped potential. And I love what Grant Cardone says about quotas. No one needs quotas because you can't measure. You're putting a cap on your potential, right? It's all about reaching your full potential. I want to work with folks who are just at the cusp. They're tip of the iceberg in terms of their full potential. And that has to be down to product market fit with folks who've done that before. All I do really in simple terms is bring people with experience to people who want to go down that journey and have down that road and have that journey.
Yeah. Thinking, keeping the same theme going. When I say something like ROI, return on investment, what do you say is the biggest challenge in a growing company for that?
I suppose committing to, so one of the things I've learned along the way is, I had the great pleasure of being in HubSpot for a number of years, where their whole mantra was around experiments. Don't be afraid to do experiments.
Okay.
There's a real failure culture today, and I guess we get it from our parents and our grandparents around the war and what have you. It's around, oh, what if you fail? Absolutely fantastic. And instead, I've just learned 1,000 ways of how not to make the light bulb, and now I'm excited to go through to find the right ones. Don't be afraid to experiment, and invest in technologies and methodologies, that will potentially yield an investment. Keep a close eye on your P&L. I always do. It would be wrong not to as a business owner, but don't be afraid to experiment, and then see where your scale is and what's that kind of ratio point based on each of those experiments. So for me, ROI is absolutely crucial. But don't be afraid to experiment. And that means people, and that means technology, and that means mixing up different approaches.
Just to switch gears here a little bit, I want to talk about you as a leader. Ross, what kind of content do you consume to educate yourself and grow as a professional and as a person?
So I'm a big believer in reading. And if for anyone who says like reading isn't for me or I haven't got the time, go get Audible. And I'm a person who likes to reflect on walks, and I've got a trainer and gym and all that kind of stuff. And for me, stick the headphones in, plug in Audible, put it at 1.5x, 2x, depending on the pace of the person talking, and consume. There's absolutely no excuse for not having an ability to educate yourself today around time. It's non-existent. I'm also a YouTube Premium subscriber, costs you about $20 a month, but one of the advantages is you can download content offline, you can queue it up, you can have it in the app in the background while you minimize it on the iPhone, for example. But there's also a ton of free resources out there of people who've already done what you're trying to do. I guarantee you that even translates to my biggest passion in life, which is DIY. You know, if you're looking to hang some drywall or, you know, rewire a lighting circuit, there is a video on how to do that. So go learn.
Right. Yeah, I could say a lot to that because I am not handy at all. But I think the video can bring you to a certain point, but then, you know, if the shelf is still crooked, I mean, you know, the YouTube, yeah,
But
it's
you've got to iterate and make mistakes and be open to that. I mean, I started tinkering with electrics when I was like 4 years of age. I electrocuted myself right throughout my teenage years. But you know what? I know how not to electrocute myself now, and I'm still here. I hung many a crooked shelf in my time, and now I know how to do it straight. And I've built up a 30-year arsenal of pretty kick-ass tools in my toolbox, right? But that translates to business too.
yeah, yeah. I was thinking here in Germany though, the walls are all stone. I don't know if they're if they're stone in Ireland or not, or if it's all drywall and wood.
It's a mixture of both. It's primarily concrete blocks with cavity, and then brickwork, and then drywall on the inside with a bit of insulation, and then plaster on top. So
Okay.
yeah, a bit of a mixed bag.
Wondering if the shelf is easier hanging there than it is here. Okay,
And
let's talk about something that's relevant to the podcast. Jumping into our rapid fire section. This is just
sure,
short and sweet questions, and you answer them as honestly as possible. You ready for it?
go for it.
Okay, apropos, you mentioned book reading. What was the last book that you read?
Be Obsessed or Be Average by Grant Cardone.
What's the single thing that your company is focused on at the moment the most?
Massive scale around companies that are pivoting because of the pandemic.
If there were no boundaries in technology, what would be the one thing you want to have fixed for your company today?
More and more and more data. I love it. I could eat it for breakfast.
What's the one thing that kept you awake at night about your company?
Where's the next opportunity coming from?
What kind of opportunity? Business opportunity? Recruitment
And
opportunity?
I'm always interested in new companies that are cool and are innovating, and I want to be part of their journey as well.
If you were to start over, let's say start your professional career over, what would be the one piece of advice you give yourself?
So one of the things I'm trying to do at the moment is I'm trying to clarify and quantify how to identify and document traits of rocket ships, right? So one of the kind of things I did at the very start of my career was I joined an established household name over a small startup SaaS company called Salesforce. I don't know, you may have heard of them, but I had an opportunity to join them, but I joined a household name instead. And I just didn't have the criteria to evaluate what that opportunity looked like. I know now, but I went with the safe bet back then. So that would be my message to my younger self.
All right, everyone. That was Ross Lauder from sftalent.com. Check out all the great work they're doing, sf-talent.com. Ross, thank you so much for being on the show today. The last part of the show is the last word, which we give to you. I know, it's a lot of responsibility. So if you want to recap everything that we talked about today, or you feel like there's something that we missed, I just want to give you the last word. The floor is yours.
No, I'm just interested in speaking with world-class, C-level and leadership talent who want to take their career to the next level. I'm also keen on speaking with hungry founder, owner, CEOs who really want to take their business globally and to the next level of scale.
Great. Thanks for your time today, Ross.
My pleasure.